Welcome back to BadgerBlitz TV, your Rivals.com destination for all things Wisconsin athletics. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Rivals.com national analyst Clint Cosgrove. Like we always say, buddy, it's the best time of the week.
Best time of the week, Perko! Let's go!
Let's be awesome today. Clint, you have been awesome on the road recently. You've been spending a lot of time back down in St. Louis. I know it's one of your favorite places. Not just to visit, but also for some really, really good talent in the prep football world. You were down there for Ryan Wingo's commitment. He committed to Texas. That was a big one for the Longhorns. We're not here to talk Longhorns. We are here to talk Badgers and other stuff that you are hearing on the trail here in the Midwest. So first of all, how was your trip and what did you learn?
I learned 5 stars recruitments, especially when you're the only one left on the board, are absolutely insane. I learned there's a lot of good young talent, like there always is in St. Louis, elite young talent. I learned that SLU is going to have a couple more guys that might be in that 4 or 5 star conversation talk. CBC is still loaded. I was with Jeremiah McClellan for a while. Cardinal Ritter. Wow, are they good? DJ Miller, who has a Wisconsin offer. I saw them play against SLU. I was on the road. I went to the Missouri game. I was on the sidelines for that. And I spent about 13, 14 hours in a car, hit a lot of schools, saw a lot of players, and a lot of, saw Chris Brooks. I was with his dad for a minute. His son is Chris Brooks Jr., who's currently on the Wisconsin roster, hurt right now, but a physical freak, it sounds like, at receiver. And it was quite the trip, man. It was quite the ride.
I think the Missouri fans are pushing the Badger fans for who loves Clint more. Man, there is so much Mizzou love out there for
I thought
Clint.
they were going to kill me.
You have a great relationship with them, Clint. It's great to watch.
It's crazy. You know what? Who would ever thought? But, when I put out Karsten, my son's, my 5-month-old son's commitment date, and saying Missouri was included in the top 5 commitment date for November 26, 2041. The Wisconsin fans came in to claim him, saying he's a legacy, has been a Soda fans. It's fun to see. Karsten, hopefully he's better than me and is highly sought after. So,
well, that'll be, we're looking forward to that one coming in a tick over 18 years, a little bit more like 18 hours away, probably from when you are hearing this. It'll be a little bit more than 18 hours, but Saturday night at Wisconsin, one of the many people who will be there is Landon Pace, who you wrote about earlier this week. He is obviously the son of one of the great offensive linemen of all time, Orlando Pace, but he projects not to be an offensive lineman, but probably an edge rusher, maybe a tight end.
Probably tight end.
You caught up with Landon. What's going on with his recruitment? I know Wisconsin might be in the mix there.
Yeah, no, I think Wisconsin's definitely in the mix. He named a couple of schools. It was Ohio State, Wisconsin, I think Missouri. Can't remember the other one off the top of my head. Wisconsin's right in the mix. I asked him, does being a Buckeye legacy play into his decision? He said, it all depends. Do I, he's a smart kid. Do I want to carve my own path or do I want to follow in those footsteps? And, he's like, but yeah, it'll play into it. It'll have some sort of impact. He was at the Ohio State game last weekend, and now he's going to the Wisconsin for their game against Ohio State this weekend. So, you know what? I tell you what, a kid that has really developed in the past year. When he was younger, he's this big body and he had kind of that baby fat on him. I saw him, I was like, he lost weight. He looks, he's slimmed out, like in a good way. He's moving well. I talked to Coach. He's having a phenomenal season. He's really turning into a player. I got to tell you. I'm really impressed. And, Orlando's a great guy. I didn't get to see him when I was down there, but, you expect some of those guys to just be these like ruthless recruiting parents, but he kind of stays out of it. He's like the football dad. He'll drive him up to Chicago for showcases and stuff like that. But it was really good talking with Landon. It was good to see his growth, his development. He's a player now. I like him. I think Wisconsin will be, in the running for that.
What's been sort of the biggest area of growth that he's had?
I think just overall body mechanics and getting that baby fat off of him, the way he moves, his twitch, he was never slow, but he was kind of a little, I would say, more heavy footed than he is now. Everything was just a tad slower. Now it's a little more violent. His movements are a little more violent. I think he got a little mean streak in him. He's grown up a little. But yeah, his overall movement. But with Wingo, he was hurt earlier in the year, and I think Pace had to kind of take a bigger role, and he really thrived in that. So I think that just the complete package, as far as is just growth, maturity on the field. Your body, growing into a dude on the football field, and really just starting to reach that ceiling, and still not even close, but getting closer. And so, yeah, I would say almost everything about him is developed.
Yeah, one other SLU kid who you saw, talk to, who also has a lot of Wisconsin interests is Keenan Harris, who's a really impressive athlete for a sophomore. 2026 kid who I feel like he could project at a bunch of different places, especially on the defense. But you never know, because he seems to be able to be sort of, at least at this point, like a jack of all trades. What do you like about him, and how do you see his recruitment going moving forward?
Well, we just made him a 4-star today. 4-star Friday. He's one of 5 guys who did not have stars prior to this morning, that do now. So from 0 to 4, real quick. This kid is 6'1" to 6'2". Say he's up to 209 right now. Holds it really well. He's athletic like a safety. But he was lining up, just messing around at practice, playing receiver, like mossed a kid in the end zone. He could be a running back, but yeah, no, his upside comes on defense. He's a thumper, dude. Like, he explodes through contact. He can run, he can hit, he can cover. Size of a linebacker, athleticism of a safety. He could carry a tight end down the seam. He's going to be able to, jockey with them physically. Depending on his development, he could be anything from a safety to an edge, to be honest. I just talking to some college coaches, one of the Pac-12 schools that recently offered they see him as a Mike backer. I've talked to other people who see him as that hybrid type, the type that really thrives into today's game of football. Just because he's almost like a positionless guy. He can do it all. And so, he could end up being huge, man. He's already built, but I like him, man. I really like that kid. And just talking to people down there, they're saying he could be the next great one out of St. Louis. And it wouldn't surprise me if he is.
In the Tressel Hitchler 335, I see him as $1. What Hunter Wooler's playing this year.
He's already bigger than Hunter.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. But I think if he keeps growing, I don't want to say he's got like Kyle Hamilton-ish upside. If you remember the safety coming out of Notre Dame a couple years ago, Hamilton was 6'4". Now I don't know.
He doesn't have the length of Hamilton.
But I can see him playing a similar role and just being the do-it-all athlete, sort of in the quasi-defensive backfield, but really just roaming him around and, turning him into a berserker who finds the football and does with it what he wants. So, but this weekend at Wisconsin, huge game under the lights against Ohio State. Lots of visitors coming in. It's a shame that Mabry Matoyer and his teammate Quennell Farrakhan aren't going to be able to make it in, because their Thursday night game against Willis got rained out, lightning out, which is that's a game that if you are into recruiting in Texas football, you have to watch. Mabry and DJ Lagway, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the country for the class of 2024. I think you can make a pretty good case that the 2 top quarterbacks in Texas. It's going to be a fantastic game. It was supposed to be Thursday night, but now got moved to Saturday during the day, which is a little bit tough, especially down in Texas when no one plays on Saturdays. Unlike where I grew up in the Northeast, every darn game is pretty much on a Saturday morning. So
yeah, I'm telling you. So Cole Patterson, our Texas analyst, drove 2 hours to the game last night, and he's like, lightning delay, pouring, lightning delay pouring. And then I was thinking of Mabry and Lagway. And I'm like, if this game is played, I was like, there's going to be one. I was like, this is going to be QB power all night long. And I mean, it would have been a slugfest between two big quarterbacks who can run. And so, yeah, it was a shame that got called off. But I was like, oh, Cole, I bet you're excited. He's like, yeah. So going to a hotel now, you know. Yeah, I'll get some. You know, Cole will be able to give great intel on Mabry after that game. So, and
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be interesting.
It could go far towards both of those guys' rankings. You know, it's a big showdown. It's like who's top dog. You know.
Yeah, and they both had really good senior seasons. No surprise to anyone there. So, but he won't be in town. But a lot of the 2024 class will be. Some of the those top targets we keep talking about: Darian Dupree, Xavier Lucas. A lot of the guys are going to be in town. Emerson Mandel, who's become one of, if not my favorite prospect in this class that the Badgers are signing. But there's also a couple of big name targets from the Midwest who are going to be there. One name we've talked a lot about is Eugene Hilton, the wide receiver out of Indianapolis, who is one of my favorite prospects in the 25 class out of the Midwest. I think he's someone who is going to pop off. We've talked about him a lot here on this podcast. And, Wisconsin's up there in his top 6. And it's become pretty clear that he is one of, if not the top receiver on their board for that class of 25 to go along with Kineberry Johnson in the class of 24. How do you see Hilton's recruiting progressing this fall? Do you think he is going to be one of the earlier deciders? I mean, it's pretty early. The fact that he came out with the top 6 in September of his junior year is a little bit early for most non-quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, it is. Especially, Midwest kids. I don't want to say Midwest kids, but he knows the deal. He's got I'm sure he has a lot of people, who've been through this before and are able to, walk them through the process and everything like that. So, but yeah, I don't know, where he is. I still need to talk with him and everything like that. We'll probably catch up after this game. Yeah, I think Wisconsin's right in the mix. The fact that he's coming up for this game says a lot. And he really fits that profile of what they're looking to do in the offense. So I think, he'll get up there, and unless he wants to go and play in the South like Pops, but he's a Midwest kid. So I'm sure, anybody who's going to be at that game, electric environment. We've been to Ohio State night games in the past at Camp Randall, and they're you can't really say, you can't explain it. You just got to be there and see it. And so, when you've got a team in your top 6 and you go and see an environment like that, that can make quite the impression. So I think Wisconsin's probably in a good spot with them. But like I said, I got to catch up with him and see where he's at.
So, yeah, there were, like Matoyer, both Dom Hulak and Gabe Kaminsky, some defensive line recruits were supposed to be up in Madison, but they'll have State of Illinois playoff complications. So they probably won't get to the game unless their games end really early on Saturday. But they will have another defensive lineman from Illinois, Jaylen Williams. He continues to be one of the top guys on their board. Williams is a kid who has a lot of attention from a lot of programs around the country, because when you look at his frame, you look at, the natural tools that he has, you can see why he projects. How do you see his recruitment coming along? I mean, he just got a USC offer in the last couple of weeks. He got a Florida State offer earlier this summer. I mean, he's got a lot of really, really big time programs coming after him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that when schools that they come to Chicago, they're going to go and see him. So he's any school that has a reason to come to Chicago, they're going to make the trip to Palatine to see him. I was at Talon Taylor's game a few weeks ago, talking with the Ohio State coach there. He had been over to see him earlier in the day. He just, he's that big, long, raw, really nice kid too, but it's crazy. He slimmed down a lot, so I don't know if he's going to end up being kind of a guy who plays on the edge and rushes the passer. I always, at first, saw him as being more of a 3 technique because that's the frame that he has and he can hold that weight. I think it's really going to be up to him. He can put it on if he wants. He can slim down if he wants, but he was rocked up last time I saw him. His recruitment's going to be highly contested. He didn't play football until high school. So this is a kid who doesn't even have 3 years of high school football under his belt. Sky's the limit with him. And so he's a pure, he's good. He's awesome right now, but he's got even higher upside. And so the thing with guys like that is, especially established programs who don't need a kid to come in and play right away, like that's when you get the Georgias and those type of schools going in on guys like that, because they're like, we get this kid in the weight room for 2 years, teach him ball for 2 years. Like, there's no limit to how good he can be. But I do think, Midwest kid, close to Madison, has enjoyed, I've talked about Wisconsin before, enjoyed every experience he's had with the Badgers, with the staff. I could see him wanting to go to the SEC for some of the warm weather and the glamour. But no, I think Wisconsin will be in the mix for him as well. And, his high school jerseys have some red to them. So that only helps.
One other visitor I want to talk about from this weekend who doesn't have an offer yet, but if things go the way that Clint and I think that they will, it would not surprise me to see Josiah Williams, a long safety out of Ohio, who's visiting this weekend, walk away with an offer. Clint, he is someone who, we've talked about those physical traits, and he's already 6'3", and he just seems to have arms for days. You can see the upside here, and he seems to fit what the defensive backs coaches are looking for at UW. Again, with just length, and more length. What is sort of your quick analysis here on Josiah?
Yeah, has he been on campus yet? Do you know?
First time.
Okay.
I believe
so
it's his
I bet
first
they're
time.
just waiting to see, is he legit 6'3", and is he not have a super narrow frame? And if he passes the eyeball test, that offer will go out immediately, because his film and the frame, the way it looks on film, is special. We've talked about him before, but great ball instincts, covers like a corner, can play safety, can trigger, can run down and hit. He's a guy that, especially in that defense, he's going to be able, his versatility is what they're looking for. The length is important because corners are going to end up on islands. Safeties are going to end up having to, they're going to end up having to play deep field and come down and play run support sometimes within the same play. So it puts a lot of pressure on those guys, and you got to have the length and athleticism in order to do that. So yeah, if he passes the eyeball test, I imagine he leaves with an offer. I watched him again this morning. I love the kid. I really do. I was like turning it on, and then I was like, I don't remember liking him this much last time. And then I went back, I looked at my last notes. I was like, I did like him this much last time. So you just watch a lot of kids, but it's always fun when you've seen a kid and then you watch the same thing again, and you're even more fired up. So I think if he passes the eyeball test and everything else checks out, he leaves with an offer.
Yeah, he's got a lot of MAC offers right now, as well as West Virginia and Purdue, some of the more regional teams, to where he is in Huber Heights, Ohio. But I do really like the upside here, and yeah, it would not surprise me at all to see him leave with an offer, and seeing him as someone pretty high up their board for defensive back in that 2025 class. Clint, no matter what class you're in, you're number one on my board, though. So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up there today on BadgerBlitz TV. Everyone enjoy Ohio State on Saturday night in Camp Randall. It's going to be epic. If you see Bernie, say hi and buy him a Coors Light. And
he might be a little too many Coors Lights steep at that point.
I don't know. I don't know if there's too many possible for him, but not in a bad way, just in a jovial social
Bernie's
way.
The man.
He's the man, and he's the mayor of Madison when he's there. It's so funny. It's so funny. So say what's up to Bernie. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll be back talking more recruiting next week here on BadgerBlitz TV, part of the Rivals.com network. And so we'll see you over there on BadgerBlitz.com on the message boards. And until then, we'll see you in the den.
In the den.